everyone, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Beautiful You. I'm your host Avantika. In today's episode, we are going to talk about self-care. I'm going to share 7 of my self-care habits that I've been following for quite some years now. In the previous episode, I had mentioned how self-care is more than face masks and massages and solo dates. It's more so about going to therapy, cutting people off, forming boundaries, doing things that make you uncomfortable but also help you grow. Because the habits that you need to inculcate to reach to your higher potential are the things that will make you feel alone. They will make you feel uncomfortable. You would have to deal with such ugly emotions and you would have to sit through it. So self-care habits are not always something that makes you feel good, but they just help you get uncomfortable, and that's where the growth begins. So I wanted to share some of the habits that I do on a regular basis that has helped me evolve into the kind of person I've always wanted to be. Now, self-care is basically a practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. A few weeks back, I had asked you what it means, what self-care means to you, and here are some of the Instagram replies that I got. Someone said, passing the mental threshold to take bold decisions, which is mentally and physically good for me. Someone else shared, well, self-care is like treating yourself after every successful checkpoints and pampering yourself when you feel low. Another person said, taking a break, resting and doing what I like. For example, watching Harry Potter. One more person replied, doing difficult things even when I don't wish to, example working out or even having a confrontation given that I don't like them at all. Another person replied, self-care means finding out what makes you happy, calm, lets you collect your thoughts, and doing those things as a way to heal yourself from whatever stress, anxiety bothered you. Thank you so much for your replies, and those are pretty accurate ones. And so, without further ado, let's dive into the habits that I personally follow. The first one is showing up for yourself. Now, I always believed that it's not the comfortable days that shape you and help you grow. It's the days when you feel most uninspired, when you feel low, when you feel unmotivated or uncreative, or on the days that, you feel exhausted. Those are the days where you need to show up. Those uncomfortable moments are the ones that actually help you grow the most. When you're showing up for yourself, you are proving to yourself that you're capable and deserving of the efforts that you're putting in. When you show up for yourself consistently, your mind gets programmed in a way that helps you increase your self-esteem and self-belief. For me, self-care is a balance between softness and sternness. Even when I'm stern with myself, I do it with kindness and love and compassion. I'll give an example. I deal with bipolar disorder. So I talk about my journey and my diagnosis with it in one of the episodes. If you haven't checked it out, you can do that. And I have to deal with episodes of depression and the highs and the lows basically, and the mood swings all throughout the year. I have learned the fine line when I should push myself to do something and when I should take a step back and get some rest. So either ways, even if I'm pushing myself to do something or even when I'm taking rest, I'm showing up for myself in both of those situations, even when I'm hustling or even when I'm resting. And I feel like that is something that you learn to do when you work on your relationship with yourself. This is not easy, believing in yourself and showing up for yourself on every day, and showing up for yourself as your best self can look different on different days. So it's not something which is quite easy to do. It takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of self-awareness, and you need to constantly be in touch with yourself and just practice the healthy habits that help you grow. This brings me to my second point, being mindful towards your body and mind. You can't expect your body to listen to you if you don't listen to her. For example, in March in 2022, I had been going through a very intense depressive episode, and I knew that if I didn't take care of myself, I would end up in a much worse state at that time. And it was very scary, right? So during that time, I was tutoring, podcasting, going to college. I had a peer counseling internship going on, and I was also interning with a corporate company. So I knew I had to drop out of something. And the thing is, I loved podcasting. It was something that filled me up. But then eventually during that period, it seemed like a burden to me. And it was very hard, but I needed to listen to my body, and I was it felt like a burden. It felt like a chore that I did not want to do. So I had to take a break. And I initially thought that the break would be for a month. The break ended up being for 3 to 4 months. But all because I needed to listen to, my body and my mind. I needed to be mindful about what I need to get back to my best self, to get back from the low that I've been going through. Not just that, even it's the simplest things like going to the gym or deciding what workout I want to do. Sometimes I get very tired after college and I really do not want to like lift weights. So instead of doing that, I would just go to the gym and do cardio. Here, I need to show up for myself by going to the gym. However, I'm still being mindful towards what my body needs right now, which is not pushing myself too much because that will lead to a burnout. So it's always like a balance of everything, Don't take the pointers that I'm sharing right now as like the singular entities. They are a mix of everything. So yeah, like I'm showing up for myself by going to the gym, but at the same time being mindful about what my body and my mind needs right now. The third point would be journaling. Whenever I feel overwhelmed, I take some time to organize my thoughts better. So writing them down on a piece of paper actually makes them feel more real, and it makes it easier for me to deal with it. I know often that we procrastinate or we avoid writing those things down, we avoid journaling because it actually makes them feel more real. And we are not ready to deal with the authenticity of that problem. We are not ready to, head on face with a certain issue. But yeah, so journaling helps you do that. That is one of the self-care habits because it's pushing me to face ugly emotions that I really do not want to face. And it's making me feel uncomfortable, but I know I have to do it. The fourth point would be eating healthier and less processed food. So sometimes I would go on detox on like holidays when I would simply eat salads and fruits or smoothies. It makes me feel better and it works as a break for me. And I've noticed that it makes me feel more focused on my work. So basically, this point, eating healthier and less processed food, is linked again with being mindful towards what your body needs. Sometimes I don't feel like eating solid food, so I would just stick with liquids. Sometimes I do not want to have a lot of food, so I simply just incorporate more of veggies and just salads and fruits more in my diet, in that particular day or something. So this thing, making sure that I'm choosing like the healthier options whenever I can, has definitely helped me better my relationship with myself. The fifth practice would be getting some quality sleep. I usually try to sleep for 6 to 7 hours every day, and on nights that I can't sleep, I tend to listen to some meditation music or some higher frequency level music, and it usually helps me sleep. But when college gets hectic or when work gets hectic, I am pretty much always sleep deprived. Just last week, I had my midterms going on and I don't think I slept more than 5 hours. That being aside, when life gets hectic and you literally cannot sleep for more than 5 or 6 hours. Apart from that, I do try my best to get good sleep whenever I can. I've noticed that whenever I have a wacky sleep schedule, it affects my mental health. It affects the mood swings as well. So my sleep and the mood swings that I go through, they're kind of closely related. It happens a lot with mood disorders. That's what I've noticed at least. Or with like the people that I've talked to. That's one thing. I'm trying to get better with my sleep schedule for sure. And getting decent enough sleep on a regular basis. My sixth practice is going to therapy. I've been in and out of therapy for about 5 years at this point. I didn't always have, the greatest therapist who challenged me in the right ways. So finding the right therapist for you takes a lot of time. The one that I'm seeing at the moment, he is amazing. I've been going to him for about more than a year at this point. And he has helped me overcome so many of my insecurities actually, so many of my fears. We unlearned old thought patterns and we learned new ones. People often think that going to therapy makes you weak. It's genuinely really hard for people to reach out. But I just want you to know that going to therapy does not make you any weak. It actually shows that you have so much strength and courage and you're ready to take accountability, It is one step closer in your journey of self-discovery. The trauma that happened to you, the bad things that you've been through, that was not your fault. But taking accountability for your own healing is your fault. So take this as a sign to go to that therapy appointment that you've been wanting to go to. Work on yourself. There's nothing badass than being so courageous and being open to vulnerability and working on yourself and, sharing parts of yourself and healing, because healing is never linear. Healing is extremely messy, but you have to start somewhere, right? Yeah. If you are someone who's been going to therapy, more power to you. That's amazing. And I hope that it helped you a lot. And the ones who are starting it, I hope it helps you a lot. The seventh practice that I do, and this is actually the best one, so pay attention. I want you to listen because I'm sure you'd get something out of it. and it's basically modifying your internal dialogue. This is something which is literally and always an ongoing process, and I've been changing my internal dialogue, actively working on it for a very long time, for years at this point. Internal dialogue is basically how you talk to yourself, how you communicate, respond, react to your actions, behaviors, thoughts, etc. And the way that I've changed it, for example, let's say a few years back, if I had overslept, if I had slept in, let's say instead of getting up at 8 a.m., which is when I wanted to get up at, instead, if I wake up at 10 a.m., right? That's 2 hours of my day that I'm sleeping in, and that's basically 2 hours of my day that I lost on in my schedule. Like, I'm behind on my schedule. So earlier I would get mad at myself. I would be like, okay, what is wrong with you? You're so stupid, and why did you sleep in for 2 hours? How dare you slept through all the alarms and all that stuff. Like, I would be so frustrated with myself. Then eventually I started asking, okay, why did my body need so much sleep? Why did my body need the rest? Is there something going on that I did not pay attention to? And if so, how can I make it better? By changing this internal dialogue, like instead of getting mad at myself, I would start acknowledging, okay, I slept in, but what's going on? It helped me understand myself better. It helped me be more in tune with myself. Be mindful of your language, because it leads to your perception, and that leads to your reality. However you speak to yourself, that is going to create the perception that you have about yourself, and your perception is always your reality. So if you tell yourself that, oh, you're stupid and dumb, you're going to start to believe that you're stupid and dumb, and that's going to be your own reality, So that is there. Another one of the dialogues that I changed was, instead of using the word am, I started using the word feel. I'll give you an example. Instead of saying I am angry, I would say I feel angry. I am sad changed into I feel sad. So basically these help me draw boundaries between my emotions and how it affects me in the present. I acknowledge that I'm feeling a certain way, but I take over their power that they have, or they potentially could have, by saying, I feel angry, or I feel sad, I feel frustrated, I feel whatever it is. So there is one, you take away their power, you acknowledge that you're feeling a certain way, and yet you're able to think rationally and you're able to respond rather than react. This whole thing also goes on with mental disorders. You would never hear me say I am bipolar. I always make it a point to say I have bipolar or I've been diagnosed with it, because it's a diagnosis, and the diagnosis that you get, they basically help you understand how you can take care of yourself better. With my diagnosis of bipolar, it's not who I am. It's just I don't let it define me. I'm much more than that diagnosis. We have been taught in universities and such as well that you never say, oh, this person is autistic, or you never say this person is schizophrenic, something like that, because you're essentially associating their identities with their disorders, which is not the healthy way to go. You always say, oh, they have been diagnosed with autism, or they have schizophrenia. You use words like that. So being mindful of the language that you're using, not just towards others but also to yourself, goes a long way in changing your perception, which then changes your reality. So yeah, I hope that you're able to change your internal dialogues, be more aware of it, and you'll see how it works. You'll definitely see how it works. When you change the energy that you give to yourself, you begin to react differently, you begin to respond differently. And that everything is just all the 7 practices that I shared. Honestly, they are all interlinked with each other. When I started changing the internal dialogue, it helped me be more self-aware, it helped me be more in tune with myself, and it helped me show up for myself more. So all the practices that I shared, they are linked with each other, and it's like you need to show up for yourself every single day. You don't grow unless you're uncomfortable, and practicing self-care is going to make you feel uncomfortable. It is going to force you, deal with certain emotions or certain realities that you didn't necessarily want to face, but that's where the growth happens. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do hope that you enjoyed today's episode. It was so fun for me to record it, and to even when I was writing down the draft, because it made me look back regarding the practices that I followed when it came to self-care. It was interesting. It was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. My email and my Instagram will be linked in the description below. Do reach out. I would love some feedback, and I would absolutely love to hear what you do to practice self-care. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, I would really appreciate it if you could rate my podcast, because it definitely helps me reach out to more people. If you're listening to this on YouTube, hit that like button and do comment and do subscribe to my channel so you are aware when, new episodes come out. I will see you guys in the next episode. I love you. Bye.